Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. In front of me, I have a medium flat rate box, and inside this box, I believe is a 2020 MacBook Air, the Intel model. So not M1, but I think this is the i3 base model. I got this pretty cheap. I'll put the price right here. It's how much I paid for it, including shipping and taxes. So to tell you a little bit about this, it was listed for parts. The seller said it did not turn on at all. But for that price, I decided to take a risk and buy this thing and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. So let's get it opened up and see what we have. And let me tell you, that is probably the worst packing I've ever seen for a MacBook. That is atrocious. I don't know how this thing isn't just dented to pieces. I mean, it was sitting bare inside that box with just some paper. It does have a dent here on, where is it? Oh, it's at the bottom here, right there. But apart from that, I'm shocked. So let's open it up and see what happens. So this is the early 2020 model. You can tell it's a 2020 because it has the Magic keyboard, as Apple calls it, and you can tell that it's an Intel model because it still has the keyboard brightness controls. We do have some significant bezel damage there, cracked display. Don't know why Apple made that bezel out of glass. I see those break so often. Let's try to press that power button and see if anything happens at all. And I think we have a shattered display. I am noticing on this side here, you can see underneath the glass, it is discolored. And I don't know if I can get this to show up. You can see up here, I think that's a crack or a scratch actually. But let me try to wipe the display and then we'll see if I can show that better on camera. All right, it's definitely got a cracked LCD. Let me try to put it right here and then move the camera so we can see that. So you can see how it's darker here and then on the edges it's lighter. So the LCD has been shattered on the inside and it is bleeding around the edges of the display. So if we take a look over here, maybe that shows up a little better. It's really hard to see on camera, but that may not indicate a broken computer. So I'm going to plug it in and then we're going to see if it actually turns on. So we'll try to press the power button. And if the trackpad clicks, that means it's turned on. And it does. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear that. Trackpad's clicking and there you go. There's the display. Look at that. What a beauty. We should hang this in an art museum. This thing is fried. The question is it going to die right away? No. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to let this charge for a little bit, and then we're going to plug it into a monitor, see if we get any video output there, and then figure out what's going on with this thing and if we can use it as a Mac Mini or not. All right, we got the MacBook and we got a monitor. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in. As you can see, it is still not a happy camper. Plug into the monitor here and see if we can get an image externally. And there we go. Check that out. All right. So the question is, how do we proceed from here? Because I think the login screen is on this one, but I need it to be over here so I can see it. Maybe if I start the computer in clamshell mode, then I can do that. Let me give that a try. All right, we got a mouse and keyboard connected. We've got it plugged into power and into the monitor, and we're met with the login screen for the old user. So let me try to figure out this password, and if I can't get that, we're gonna try macOS recovery mode. And we're inside of macOS recovery, gonna go ahead and reset the password so we can get logged in. And here we are at the login screen with our new password. We're going to log in and then we can check out this computer and see what specs it has and talk a little bit about if this is a good deal or not. All right, here we go. First things first, let's check about this Mac and see what specs we have. So we have the 1.1 gigahertz dual core i3, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 250 gigabytes of storage. So that is the base configuration that was sold to the public. You could get 120 gigabytes if you bought the education model, but that was only available to businesses and corporations. Now let's go into system report. And to our pleasant surprise, activation lock status is disabled. So that means that I can erase this MacBook without the previous user's Apple ID. And let's check power. 271 cycles, not bad at all. So unfortunately for us, the screen is completely shattered. But despite that, this appears to be a fully functional MacBook Air 2020. And next up, we're going to run a disk speed test here to see how fast the SSD is. Write speeds are looking at around 1 gigabyte per second. Read speeds are around 1.3 gigabytes per second. So certainly not nearly as fast as the new Apple Silicon MacBooks and Mac Minis, but still respectable, and I don't think you're really going to notice any slowdowns as a result of this. Next up, we have Cinebench R23. We scored 1622. Now Geekbench 5, we scored 1048 for single core and 1965 for multi-core. And I've gone ahead and shown you some other comparable results for Mac Minis. So we have the 2012 i7, 2014 i7. I went with the i3 2018 model. I went with the i3 2018 model, and of course the Apple M1. Because in my opinion, those are the devices that would be similar to this MacBook Air because, well, it's basically a Mac Mini now. So for Geekbench 5 OpenCL, which is a graphics test, we got a score of 5,427, which puts it about on par with the 2014 and 2018 Mac Minis. Way slower than the Apple M1, but quite a bit faster than the 2012 Mac Minis with the HD 4000 graphics. Then I ran a dedicated benchmark, Unigine Valley, for mainly testing graphics, but it also kind of pushes the CPU, and you can see the scores there. And now we're going to test a little Minecraft. I'm going to create my own create my own creative world here. And we're going to see just how bad it is on here. And here we go. This is abysmal. I'm getting like single digit frames per second here. I think I have the render distance set to 12. We'll try turning that down to 5 and simulation distance to 5 as well. This is terrible. I have a Core 2 Duo MacBook Pro that runs better than this. But I think the resolution's our problem. Let's do 720p. All right, that should be fine. All right, that's a little bit better actually. Still not sure it's playable with how stuttery it is. What if we lower everything all the way down? We're still not at 30 frames per second, which is what I'm recording this video in. I mean, this is terrible for a 2020 MacBook Air. If you were to play this on a 2020 M1 MacBook Air, you'd be getting 60 frames per second at 1080p easily. At like 12 to 15 chunks of render distance. But this is awful. I'm not sure you could play this. So enough of that. And there you have it. That's been a look at the 2020 Intel MacBook Air with this absolutely beautiful display here. So in conclusion, should you buy this instead of a Mac Mini? And I think the short answer is no. I really don't see any benefit to having this MacBook Air instead of a Mac Mini. You get worse performance. You only get 2 Thunderbolt ports here on the side. Every single Mac Mini you're going to buy is going to have more ports than that. You have terrible thermal performance because there's no dedicated heatsink for this MacBook Air. The only benefit would be if you live somewhere where the power is constantly going out, you actually do get the battery inside of this to keep your work going for a little bit longer. But unless your monitor is also on a battery, it's not going to do you much good. So for this price point, I would absolutely recommend picking up a 2014 Mac Mini, or if you can find the 2012 quad-core i7 model, that'll give you the best performance for your dollar. And if you can reach into the M1s and even potentially the M2 models, certainly I would go for that. You're going to see substantial performance improvements over this MacBook Air. All right, that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.